My father beat me bloody, then ran the moment he saw who was holding me. That was the first sign something was horribly wrong, because abusive men don't scare easily. But that night, Gregor looked terrified. Terrified of the stranger I had just begged to hold me for 1 second. What I didn't know yet was this. I had just thrown myself into the arms of his deadliest enemy.
Heels. Look at this, she is pure terror personified. Barefoot on the frozen Chicago concrete, heart hammering, she sees him. A man leaning against luxury whip, radiating that top-tier predator energy. She makes a desperate pivot and lunges toward him, Heels, praying for safety. Even with his cold, sociopathic stare, he reacts to her shivering. He pulls her in like a human fortress, glaring at the real monster, her father, who actually flinches at this superior power. She is clinging to her savior now, Heels, totally clueless that she just traded one beast for a way more dangerous kind of nightmare, Heels. This 1 second just flipped their lives upside down. For everyone following on the My Stories platform, pay attention. She is slipping into a total sensory blackout, her world shrinking to the taste of blood and the scrape of the pavement, Heels. Chicago in March is a sub-zero nightmare, but she is so hyped on adrenaline she feels zero cold. Her body is failing, but the cortisol keeps her moving because the dread of being caught is real. Her brain has gone full survival mode, Heels, silencing all logic. She is not running toward a goal, she is just vibrating away from a lethal shadow. Heels. Look at the backstory, a brutal cycle of domestic violence from her father, Gregor Istvan. Since age 6, that house was a straight-up kingdom of fear. She lived in constant hyper-vigilance, literally barricading doors just to sleep. Even as an adult, Heels, she was a prisoner of his economic abuse. He used money like a leash, sabotaging her career to keep her trapped. It is your classic Stockholm Syndrome setup, where the known devil feels safer than the world outside. But tonight, Heels, a psychological line was officially crossed. The old order is shattered, replaced by a desperate, bloody flight into the great, terrifying unknown. Heels. The assault exploded out of nowhere, no shouting, just the sickening thud of a closed fist. That blow sent her reeling through the house while her world spun out of control. That violence triggered an ancient survival reflex, Heels. She scrambled for the exit while Gregor screamed her name. Not like a parent, but like a master calling a stray dog. To this narcissist, his daughter is just a possession in revolt. She moved through the building with trembling limbs, Heels, her motor skills failing under a massive cortisol spike. The rusted fire escape became her bridge, a cold iron path leading from domestic captivity straight into high-stakes city terror. Heels. After the escape, she hits a total dissociative fog. The familiar Chicago streets turn alien as her brain picks survival over memory. She has nothing, no cash, no ID, just thin sleepwear soaked in her own blood, Heels. Then she spots it, a high-value black vehicle. In this neighborhood, a car like that is a ghost, an impossible signal of wealth and power. This is her first real look at him, a man whose posture screams lethal, quiet capability. He is perfectly still, Heels, a predator at rest, watching as this broken, bleeding girl stumbles across the border and right into his dark and dangerous reality. Heels. He stands there with absolute territorial command, shoulders broad, jaw set like a stone mask. Dark tattoos peek from his sleeves, hinting at a heavy life in the underworld. He is on the phone, but the sight of a bleeding, Heels, barefoot woman creates a jagged rift in his focus. Driven by a dying spark of hope, she throws herself against him. Her plea for a 1-second embrace is a tactical gamble for a human shield. The man freezes in total shock. His muscles lock, Heels, caught between his cold antisocial training and a buried protective instinct. A predator suddenly touched by a literal casualty, Heels. His eyes hold zero pity, just a cold analytical weighing of her soul. Finally, he allows the embrace, his movements heavy and deliberate. He becomes her human shield, a wall of hard muscle and expensive fabric that just swallows her small frame, Heels. For a moment, her world finally stabilizes. She can feel his heart, a steady, slow thrum that mocks her own racing pulse. This difference tells his whole story. He is a man forged in violence, his threshold for fear set way higher than normal, Heels. As she starts to shake from the trauma, she finds a temporary anchor in his clinical, unshakable composure, Heels. Wrapped in this temporary fortress, she starts to process the horror she left behind. His scent, a mix of cedar and high-end cologne, is a sensory lifeline pulling her away from the pain. For 1 second, time stops. It is artificial safety, Heels, but she clings to it. His embrace is mechanical, totally devoid of warmth, yet his grip is solid and reliable. But then, his body changes. His muscles coil with a new, dangerous tension as he shifts from protector to hunter, feels. His focus snaps away from her, scanning the darkness. The sentinel has awakened, sensing the approach of another predator in the shadows. Feels. A territorial standoff begins. The man lifts his chin, a silent assertion of dominance over the encroaching of dark. Even without looking, she knows who is coming. The rhythmic sound of her father's walk is a trauma trigger etched into her brain. Feels. This is silent psychological warfare between two different kinds of monsters. Her protector says nothing, but a low-frequency vibration rumbles in his chest, a primal warning of lethal intent. Gregor Istvan, feels, recognizing a power way more absolute than his own, chooses survival over pride. He retreats into the night, his footsteps fading. The threat is neutralized by the gravity of a superior force. Feels. As the threat vanishes, her nervous system begins to collapse. She lets go of his coat, her knuckles white from the strain. The man does not offer comfort. Instead, he starts clinical interrogation, identifying the antagonist. Feels. He prioritizes threat assessment over emotional support. When she finally whispers the word father, it is heavy with soul-crushing shame. The word is jagged, broken by years of trauma. He receives this data with a chilling, detached silence, feels, his mind calculating the variables of her nightmare without a single trace of conventional empathy. Feels. He examines her injuries with a terrifying clinical calm. When he mentions her split lip, it sounds like a diagnostic report, not a gesture of concern. She reaches up, her fingers confirming the sticky reality of dried blood. He asks where she lives, feels, a question that feels like a dark, cruel joke. In her current state, bleeding barefoot and utterly alone, she has nowhere to go. Her soft refusal is met with a calculated, wordless nod. He pockets his phone, feels, the click signaling the start of a cold new phase in his intervention. Feels. It is clear now that he ended his call the moment she touched him. She has become his primary objective. Another man emerges from the shadows, blending perfectly into the urban gloom, a tactical associate, silent and sharp. Feels. He watches the scene with a practiced neutrality, his eyes cataloging the bleeding woman and his master's reaction. There is a silent, telepathic exchange of data between them, a recalibration of the night's goals. Feels. The arrival of this second man confirms a dark truth. She has not just stumbled upon a stranger, but a structured, lethal hierarchy that runs things. Feels. Ronan tells her to get in the car. It sounds like a suggestion, but it is mandatory. Iris snaps back with sarcasm, mocking the idea of climbing into a stranger's ride. A thin ghost of a smile haunts his lips. He likes her fire. Then he gives her a name, Ronan. It is a formal introduction to his world. She crosses the line. She is in his space now. Feels. Iris takes the gamble, stepping into the dark interior despite knowing nothing about this man. She is freezing, bleeding out, and shattered by the horrors left behind in that alleyway. Between two monsters, she picks the one she does not know yet. Feels. Inside the sedan, Roan Morgan is a statue of ice. He avoids her touch with surgical precision, recalibrating the air between them. Every inch of space is calculated. He treats their earlier closeness as a data error, a tactical lapse to be erased. Feels. The way he sits rigid and silent makes that brief embrace feel like a sin. Feels. Through the glass, Iris watches her old life vanish, block by block. The car is heavy with the kind of silence only strangers share. They pull up to a shimmering Chicago high-rise, a monolith of power she has only ever seen from the street. Feels. Ronan Morgan moves first, showing no politeness, only the tactical focus of a man protecting a valuable asset. He leads her to a 7th-floor apartment. The rooms are sterile and hollow, a transition zone designed to hide the soul. There are no photos, feels, no clutter, nothing that tells her who he really is. Feels. The city lights look peaceful from this high up, a lie told to the world below. Ronan Morgan stands at the door, refusing to cross the threshold into her temporary sanctuary. He leaves her with the basics and a promise. The questioning starts tomorrow. Feels. Iris has 1,000 burning questions about his name and why her father looked so terrified of him. But her body is finally giving up. Her nervous system is a frayed wire. Exhaustion washes over her like a dark tide. Feels. And she no longer has the strength to fight the need to disappear into sleep. Feels. Iris whispers a hollow thank you into the sterile air. As the lock clicks, her instincts finally surrender. She falls into a heavy sleep, accepting this gilded cage for now. In the hallway, Ronan Morgan stands like a specter, analyzing her through the wood. Cillian Hale emerges from the gloom, his face a silent demand for answers. For Hale, this deviation from protocol is a dangerous crack in their discipline. Feels. Cillian Hale drops a chilling fact. Ronan is never this soft with his marks. Iris wakes up in a luxury trap. Sheets too smooth, air too quiet. She actually misses the familiar stench of tobacco and decay. No screaming, no heavy boots, just silence, but the pain is still there. She looks in the mirror, forced to witness the physical evidence of last night's brutality. Feels. Ugly bruises are blooming on her face like dark flowers. Her lip is a mess. In the shower, Iris feels like a ghost haunting a luxury she never earned. Her body is free, but her head is still in a cage. She tries the door and finds Cillian Hale. He is standing there like a stone statue. His eyes don't blink as he watches her. He knew she would try to run. He was waiting for it. Feels. Hale looks at her like she is a math problem. He tells her Ronan will be back in 1 hour for a little chat. Iris acts like she does not care, hiding her shaking hands behind a wall of boredom. For a split second, Hale's mouth twitches. It is a total glitch in his robot brain. Then he goes back to being a machine, leaving her to figure out what that brief human tremor actually meant. Feels. Cillian states the obvious. You cannot run away when you are barefoot and bleeding. Iris feels that sting of helplessness as she backs off. She tries to stay classy in borrowed rags with zero cash. She spends an hour pacing a kitchen that is way too clean. She eats alone, watching the city through the glass. Her brain is spinning escape plans that are all dead ends. No money, no friends. She is basically a prisoner of the situation. Feels. Ronan Morgan walks in and the air just disappears. Iris expects a storm, but he is a block of ice. He checks her bruises like he is doing taxes. Then he drops the bomb. Gregor is finished. Her father has been deleted from the planet. No trace left. He talks about her nightmare of a dad like he is closing a boring file. Zero empathy. To Ronan, her father was never a human, only a variable that required elimination. Feels. Iris feels a wave of relief, then a cold realization hits. Ronan is way more powerful than she thought. He is perfectly still, his feeling locked behind iron bars. He says her dad is handled, but now she needs protection. To her, that word sounds like a fake language. She has never been safe a day in her life. After living in a war zone, this sudden peace feels scarier than the actual danger. Feels. Iris just sneers at the offer. She knows every favor in this world is paid back in blood. To her, a gift is just a knife you haven't seen yet. Ronan does not even argue. He just says she is safe and goes back to work. Once he is gone, Iris grabs the phone to call Soraya. She needs new clothes fast. She cannot stand wearing these rags. The final pieces of her escape from that house. Feels. Iris tells the whole story. The fight with Gregor, the escape, and her dark night. When Soraya Nasri shows up, she is floored by the mansion and Cillian's cold vibe. Soraya cannot figure it out. Is Iris a hostage or did she hit the jackpot? Cillian does not care what she thinks. He tells her that in their world, luck and crime look exactly the same. Saved by a hero or a monster, the proximity to death remains unchanged. Feels. Look at this guy. Soraya points at Cillian like he is a broken robot. The statue can actually talk, she says, shocked by his voice. Cillian leaves, and the silence is heavy. Soraya hugs Iris tight, the only real thing in this mess. When they pull apart, Feels. Soraya's face goes hard as rock. Iris nods once, confirming Gregor is dead. Soraya promises revenge like she is ordering coffee. But Iris stops her. She reveals the predator is already being eaten alive. That shakes Soraya. Feels. Iris is not just a survivor anymore. She is watching a massacre unfold. Feels. Soraya cleans the cut so gently it feels fake. Iris pulls away, scared of the help. As Soraya leaves, Ronan slides back in like a shark. He stands in the shadows like a guard at a grave. Then Iris whispers a thank you. It is a crack in her armor. She finally acknowledges he saved her, showing a side she usually hides. The kitchen island stands between them like a demilitarized zone. In the dim light, a dark connection starts to take hold. Feels. Iris remembers last night, how his touch changed everything. Ronan freezes. He does not know how to be close or how to take a compliment. A twitch in his hand gives him away. This man of steel is drowning in feelings. He shuts her down fast, trying to bring back his icy walls. But Iris does not blink. She looks past the hitman to see the man underneath. Maybe she is brave, or maybe she is just crazy. She stares into his darkness and finds a weird kind of peace. The air gets thick with their shared trauma. Feels. He clears his throat as the vibe breaks like glass. A phone rings, killing the moment. Instantly, the human side is gone, replaced by a killer. His eyes go hard, the boss is back. Iris knows that look. It is the same power that crushed Gregor. Feels. The change is total and scary. After the call, Ronan is just a loaded gun. This is not just being cold. This is a man getting ready for a bloodbath. Iris watches him and feels her heart sink, realizing how dark he really is. He has made his choice. Feels the old world is dead and the fire is coming. Feels. His face turns to stone as he processes the call. The game has changed. Iris tries to read his silence, but Ronan is a brick wall. He tells her they will talk tomorrow, a move to buy some time. He leaves her in the dark with her brain on fire. Feels. She feels a bigger conspiracy around Gregor, a secret that turns her into a piece on the board. As he stands in the door, she realizes she is being played. No sleep tonight. Her mind is full of jagged glass and unanswered questions. Feels. She is stuck in a war where every move is written in blood. Feels. With no home and no cash, Iris is just a ghost in Ronan's world. At sunrise, a new player steps out of the shadows. Declan Byrne walks in with eyes as cold as a morgue. He is the mastermind of this whole criminal empire, the guy pulling the strings. Feels. Ronan stands there like a giant, taking up the whole room. He calls Declan a family advisor, which is just fancy talk for a mob lawyer. Iris feels the weight of that title. They shake hands, but it feels like a test. Feels. She is being judged by the kings of the underworld. Their eyes are as cold as surgery lights. Feels. The handshake is totally cold and quick. Declan gives her some fake sympathy that sounds like a funeral speech. Iris looks for help from Ronan, but he is just staring out the window. He tells her to sit. It sounds like an invite, but it is really a command. Feels. Declan takes the hot seat while Ronan stands guard like a shadow. The air gets thick, like a storm is about to hit. He's with a warning that this is going to hurt. It is a nasty heads-up before the punch. He is about to wreck her world. Feels, and he wants her eyes wide open for it. Feels. Iris crosses her arms, ready for the bad news. She says since she survived Gregor, she is bulletproof. But Ronan drops a truth bomb that changes everything. Her father was just a small part of the Russian bratva, a tiny gear in a massive killing machine. Feels. It feels like jumping into ice water. To her, Gregor was the only monster. Now he is just a ghost in a global nightmare. She can barely process it. Her trauma was not just bad luck, it was training for the mob. Feels. Her home life horror just got overshadowed by an international shadow. Reality is breaking, and the word Mafia is the killing blow. Feels. Look at this, guys. Iris thought Gregor was just a toxic dad, but turns out he is tied to a massive mob syndicate. Her world officially trashed. She says the word Bratva, and it hits like a freight train. It is real life now. Ronan leaks that Gregor ran like a total coward, a parasite ditching a predator. He sold his daughter out just to keep his own heart beating. Iris is done hiding. She looks Ronan in the eye and asks the only thing that matters. Who are you? Is he her savior or just a golden cage? Feels. Eye contact is intense. Ronan actually shows some feelings before dropping the mask. He is the Morrigan boss, king of the West Side, and he hates the Zakharovs. Iris is just traded one monster for another. Declan is just standing there like a creepy accountant watching it all happen. It hits Iris like a punch to the gut. He is the head of an Irish empire. Iris is done being a normal girl. Now she is just a piece on a chessboard where the players are literal killers. Feels. Iris is living in the wreckage of her life, protected by her dad's biggest enemy. Talk about awkward. She is acting like a robot because she is totally broken. Ronan starts roasting her dad. Feels. Proving Gregor was a massive coward who ran the second things got scary. This isn't just talk. It is a total brainwash. By trashing her father, Ronan becomes the only person she can trust in this shark tank. Feels. He feels for her trauma but uses it to lock her down. Her old life is being deleted and replaced with a role in his Irish mafia. He is rebuilding her, one blood-stained brick at a time. Feels. Ronan is finally cutting her loose from her dad's mess. Iris is starting to crack. She knows violence, but this high-stakes mob war is next level. She asks to be alone, and the vibe gets freezing cold. No fake sympathy from Ronan or Declan. They just leave. Feels. That lack of pity? That is the real game changer. He isn't treating her like a victim. He is treating her like an equal player. By giving her space, he is building a bond stronger than any handcuffs. She sits there feeling the weight of her new life. Feels. In this room, she finally gets some respect, something she never had at the Istvan house. Feels. Suddenly, Iris just snaps. It is not even sadness. It is the pure horror of realizing her person actually is. Her pain was just a part of a massive machine. Once she stops crying, she goes looking for the boss. She finds Cillian, this huge Feels. Silent guy who sees everything. He is basically the human version of a security camera. She asks where Ronan is, and that is the shock is gone. She isn't running away anymore. She is hunting down the man who runs her world. Feels. The scene ends with her walking straight toward the Irish king. Feels. Cillian tries to lead the way, but Iris chooses to walk into the fire by herself. A tiny spark of respect shows in the guard's eyes, a big win for her. The inner office is a dark vault full of heavy secrets. Declan is buried at his desk, Feels, treating human lives like boring statistics. Ronan is just a shadow against the glass, staring at the city lights. He doesn't get soft when she enters. He is the type of man who never stops moving. He just shifts his weight, Feels, totally hyper-focused on his new obsession. Iris kills the silence, her voice a cold blade demanding the actual truth. Feels. She stops a few feet away, keeping her distance to protect her soul. She asks if her dad is ever coming back. Ronan and Declan give each other that look. They are totally in sync. He promises she is safe there. She calls him out, asking if he is being real or just playing games. He actually smiles and says it is both. Logically, she should run for her life. But instead, she stays right in the middle of her father's worst enemy. You can see it right now. The start of a really dark obsession. Feels. She doesn't want to leave. Her brain is already making excuses to stay near her captor. All afternoon, Ronan's boss things, whispering strategies, and using cold logic. Iris hides her curiosity because that is how she survived the past. But man, the tension is getting thick. Every time she looks away, he is staring at her. He is literally counting her bruises and that cut on her lip. It is the look of a man making a list of everyone who hurt her. He is going to pay them back in blood. Feels. They lock eyes and his pupils go tiny. His brain is literally fighting itself. He is acting super twitchy. He goes to open a door for her like a gentleman, but stops like he just touched a hot stove. It is almost midnight now. Iris is in the kitchen just boiling water to keep from losing it. The penthouse is so quiet it is creepy. She isn't used to this. She grew up in a loud cage, and this dead silence feels way more dangerous than a loud fight. Feels. Ronan shows up like a total ghost in the doorway. Without his expensive suits, he looks raw and almost vulnerable. That dark shamrock tattoo on his pale skin looks like a literal bruise in the moonlight. He stops less than a foot away. Feels. The huge kitchen suddenly feels as tight as a coffin. The walls are closing in, leaving nothing but the heat coming off their skin. It is a moment of pure, insane tension. The outside world is gone. There is no air left. Feels. Just two broken people standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the fall. Feels. He looks at the scar on her lip, the proof of her crappy past. When he meets her eyes, she literally forgets to breathe. It is not even fear. He raises his hand so slowly it is painful. No hesitation, just pure, scary focus. His fingers get so close, like 1 centimeter away from her face. She can feel the heat coming off him. It is like a magnet pulling her in. It is this silent promise, a bridge made of shadows that neither of them is brave enough to cross yet. Feels. He jerks his hand back and whispers that he will protect her no matter what. His voice is so low she can barely hear it, making it feel like they are the only people in the world. Iris gives him a tiny, fake smile to hide how fast her heart is beating. She really wants to grab him right now. For 1 second, his tough guy act fails. His eyes go soft, like a door opening in a dark tomb. Right then, the truth comes out. It wasn't a choice. He just totally surrendered his soul to her. Feels. He is past the point of no return. You can see it in his eyes. He is lost and he doesn't even care. He backs away into the dark, and Iris can finally breathe again. He is gone like a ghost, leaving her with cold tea and a terrifying thought. This guy hates people. He almost broke his 10-year rule for her, and the scary part, she wanted him to do it. By morning, Iris is acting like she owns the place. She doesn't ask for permission anymore. She finds Ronan and Declan, ready for the coffee and the truth. Feels. He talks about his dad getting killed 4 years ago like he is reading a grocery list. No emotion at all. It was a Zakharov hit, and Ronan saw the whole thing. Iris just stands there watching his blank face. Feels. He is talking about the king's death like it is just business. But his hands give him away. His knuckles are white, showing a tiny crack in his armor. Then he drops the real bomb. He was holding his father's hand while he died. Feels. His voice gets heavy with the memory. This is a rare look at the boss's trauma, and he is only sharing because he has to. Feels. Ronan broke down the exact second his dad died, describing the brutal moment life left his body. Iris just sat there in a heavy silence because she knew some scars are too deep for cheap talk. Then Ronan dropped the real bomb. He hasn't touched another human being since that day. That's why he flinches and keeps everyone miles away. It's not just him being cold. It's a massive shield of grief that's basically become his entire personality. Feels. Even though she's an outsider, Iris managed to crack his fortress. She pointed out the massive hole in his logic. For a guy who swore off people, he sure did hold her tight. Ronan looked shocked, like his own body had betrayed his iron will. But then Declan ruined the vibe with a tactical cough to set some boundaries. Instantly, Ronan flipped the switch and put his professional mask back on. He went back to master negotiator mode with icy precision. The human vanished, and the mob boss returned. Heels. Soraya makes an entrance with clicking heels and a voice that takes over the whole room. She immediately starts roasting Cillian, questioning if the stone-faced guard is even a real human. Heels. Cillian hits back with a dry comment about his blinking eyes just to prove he's biological. When Soraya finally laughs, it melts the heavy tension instantly. Iris joins in for a much-needed vent. It wasn't about joy, but just letting off steam. Heels. This tiny moment of being normal was a huge relief in their world of trauma and iron-fisted control. Heels. That laughter was just a defense mechanism, a quick psychological escape from their tragic lives. For 1 minute, the burden felt light enough to carry. But out in the hallway, Ronan paused, and Cillian caught that hesitation with his sharp eyes. Heels. Cillian analyzes every move Ronan makes, measuring the subtle shifts in his boss. He knows this tiny crack in the foundation is going to be a major factor later. That night, while Iris struggled to sleep, Heels, Ronan received intel that shifted the temperature of their entire world. The game had officially changed. Heels. At first, Iris was totally oblivious to the massive shifts happening around her. She only noticed the suffocating tension and those hushed tactical calls Declan was making in private. The data finally confirmed it. Heels. Gregor Istvan wasn't just a soldier. He was a traitor hiding inside the crime family. He was selling Russian secrets to their rivals, and that betrayal carries a mandatory death sentence. He went from a simple coward to a high-risk liability. Heels. This revelation sparked something in Ronan. His eyes took on the cold focus of a grandmaster seeing 10 moves ahead before the final execution. Heels. Even though it was restricted, Iris bypassed protocol and walked right into the command center. The triad was already there. Ronan at the head, Declan on the data, and Cillian standing as the silent enforcer. Heels. It was the perfect image of a power hierarchy that's ruled for years. As she walked in, Ronan turned with a heavy presence, silently asserting his dominance. Iris stayed steady and demanded to know what was going on. Heels. It wasn't a request. It was a brave attempt to take back control in this cold, clinical space. Heels. Declan instinctively tried to keep things secret, claiming the details were too high risk for her clearance level. But Ronan issued a sudden command. She stays. This sharp break in protocol was like a glitch in Declan's logic. Heels. Cillian just stayed as a silent shadow in the corner. Iris took a seat at the end of the table while Ronan presented the facts. Your father is not just some low-level asset, he began. Heels. He delivered the news with the detached precision of a man who'd already calculated every possible outcome of this cold disclosure. Heels. The dossier confirmed that Gregor had been selling sensitive organization data for 2 years straight. He was liquidating vital supply routes just for his own profit. For Iris, Heels. This was the missing piece that made all her weird memories of burner phones and mood swings finally make sense. When she questioned Ronan's actual goal, everything shifted. In that moment, Ronan didn't look like a protector. Heels. He looked like a cold-blooded strategist who sees people as leverage. He wasn't the guy from the kitchen anymore. He was the head of a massive criminal enterprise. Heels. The strategy was to hand the problem directly to Viktor Zakharov, the rival head of the Russian Bratva. This was a massive gambit, using the traitor as a peace offering instead of starting a war. Heels. Ronan explained the move like the ending was already written. By exposing the betrayal, Gregor would be stripped of all his protection and rank. It was a tactical maneuver designed to force a ceasefire. Heels. Declan confirmed the goal was a strategic alliance, not one built on trust, but on mutual profit and the preservation of their total strength. Heels. This was no friendship. It was just a calculated pause in the fighting. In the heavy silence, a psychological bond started forming, something like early Stockholm Syndrome. Iris realized this whole complex move wasn't for power, Heels, but for her own personal safety. That's a dangerous truth Ronan actually allowed her to see. She tried to push back, stating clearly that she's not a piece on his chessboard. Heels. It was a desperate attempt to keep a boundary between his protection and his total control before her identity got swallowed by his agenda. Heels. The tension in the room was electric. Then Ronan made a stunning admission. If you were just a game piece, I wouldn't be losing. The silence that followed was absolutely deafening. Declan buried himself in paperwork to ignore the break in protocol, heels, while Cillian actually showed a tiny bit of amusement. Iris sat there with her heart racing, realizing she held unique power over the Grandmaster. The narcissist had finally admitted to a loss of control, feels, which is a rare and dangerous deviation from his usual cold profile, feels. The next few days were defined by two massive forces. First was the building of a metaphorical cage around Gregor the traitor. Second was the slow erosion of the emotional distance between Iris and the Kingpin, feels. While they didn't get physically closer, their internal walls were crumbling inch by inch through heavy silences and intense looks. This slow psychological merging continued until a brand new message arrived, feels. It shattered the rhythm of their isolation and forced a totally new, unpredictable reaction from the entire triad, feels. She sat in the dim quarters with Soraya, a living bridge to a past she desperately wanted to bury. Outside, the world moved on, but her reality totally shattered. A trembling courier envelope that Cillian filed away with a cold glance. Inside was a note from Gregor, written in a frantic, jagged hand that cut through her mind like a scar. A direct injection of her father's sickness into her sanctuary, intended to break her using only fear and lies, heals. The ink claimed Ronan was the monster, and she was just a pawn in his game. This was classic manipulation, the abuser painting the protector as the villain to keep the victim isolated. At first, a cold terror took hold of her, feels the old ghost of her father's voice. But as she read the words again, she saw the sender's true weakness. Gregor was not trying to save her. He was just clawing for his lost throne. Soraya spat a curse, feels, exposing the pathetic desperation behind the frantic script and the hollow man who wrote it, feels. Choosing Ronan wasn't about faith. It was the final autopsy of her trust in Gregor. It was a necessary evolution. Ronan appeared shortly after, summoned by Cillian's network of watchers. He carried a heavy, lethal stillness, feels, the kind of silence that signals a massive storm is coming. But Iris didn't flinch. She stepped forward, reclaiming the narrative. Handing him the document, she repeated Gregor's toxic warnings. She met his gaze directly, feels, forcing the master tactician to account for his role in this grim cycle of blood and heritage, feels. Ronan stood dead center like a statue of pure menace. He didn't budge. His focus locked in until she became his entire world. His voice was a surgical blade as he dropped the ultimate choice. Do you trust him or me? Zero affection. Just the weight of that decision. Then, it happened. Those killer green eyes thawed, shifting from a guard stare to something actually soft. That is the exact moment the heart starts loving the bars of its own cage. Feels. Watch how he moves.
This guy doesn't do normal feelings. He just channels everything into keeping her safe.
When she finally stepped toward him, not terrified, but actually trusting, Ronan like building a bridge in the dark. He wasn't relieved. His pride was way too huge for that. It was just the mechanical click of a lock. She gave him the proof he needed. Total silence. When he walked away, he wasn't a shield anymore. He was a predator, feels. This wasn't just business anymore. It was personal, a total crack in his cold logic. 3 days later, they met in a dark corner of Chicago, a place with no laws, rolled in with surgical precision, his muscle hiding in the shadows. Viktor Zakharov was waiting. A man sharp as a knife with eyes like burnt ash. He had seen too much blood to care about mercy. A ghost of the old Soviet machine, he sat there, wondering what this new boss actually wanted, feels. Zakharov used silence like a weapon, acting like Ronan didn't even exist. He watched with the hungry patience of a winter wolf. Thick accent turned the name Morrigan into a death sentence. Ronan didn't flinch, sliding a leather file across the table like it was a damn autopsy report. For 4 long minutes, Zakharov stayed frozen, but his hands gave him away. By page 2, his knuckles were white. By page 3, he was mangling the paper in a silent explosion of fury. Feels. That silence was basically a signed contract. Zakharov took the news personally in blood. Ronan walked out with predator energy, never breaking eye contact. Pure respect between two executioners, no need for fake small talk. Later, Declan confirmed the hit. Gregor was finished. The Bratva threw him away, like trash. In the aftermath, a shaky peace started. It wasn't about being nice, it was just the cold fact that killing each other was way too expensive. Feels. It was a mercenary peace, held together by the price of betrayal. She sat in the quiet, her heads, deleted her nightmare, Gregor, without even breaking a sweat. It was a clean hit, cutting out a tumor just by using his name. A massive wave of relief hit her, followed by pure dread. If he could erase a guy like Gregor with one word, she was totally helpless. When she finally found him, he was all alone. Feels. He stood by the window against the neon lights of Chicago. He made her wait, making sure she felt every single breath. When she finally whispered her question, yet she didn't have her usual guard up. It was a raw, vulnerable moment. Ronan turned, his stare cutting right through her, making her feel exposed but finally seen. This was the trap, a prisoner finding safety in the shadow of her jailer. He only said a few words. He did it because, for 24 years, nobody ever bothered to defend her. Heels. That hit harder than any punch. It wasn't a romance. It was a dark truth about the 2 decades she spent running. She lived in constant fear, a ghost with no one to watch her back until he showed up. She didn't cry. Tears were too cheap for this debt. Instead, the vibe changed. The deal was done. She wasn't a captive anymore. She stayed because she chose the cage. The runner finally stopped, choosing to live in his shadow world. Feels. Ronan felt the shift instantly. For a second, his mask cracked, a tiny softening of his posture. This was a man who had stayed cold since the day his father died. Since the day his father died. He held out his hand, palm up, but a quiet, awkward reach for a connection he didn't know how to ask for. He was opening the gates to his private world, letting her into his territory. It was a shift from total control to a dark, shared union. Feels. She stared at his hand, her body remembering his touch perfectly. The feeling was burned into her nerves, skipping her brain entirely. When she finally touched him, his fingers wrapped around hers with a gentle, scary power that showed years of discipline. Every wall just collapsed. His palm was burning hot and wide, a shield promising safety. As his grip tightened, the knot in her chest vanished, replaced by the heavy realization that her world had been rewritten forever. Feels. This was a total transformation, happening fast like a fever dream. Ronan watched her with a weird curiosity, like he was shocked he could actually feel things. He led her into the Morrigan suite, a secret place she only knew from rumors. The doors opened to a Chicago skyline that looked like it was bowing to him. The place was cold, perfect, and flawless, just like his mind. Every detail was built to dominate, proof of his power and his absolute grip on the empire. Feels. The city below was just a map of his total power. Inside the apartment, stone and wood felt cold and focused. When he let go of her hand, the sudden chill felt like he'd abandoned her. Ronan poured 2 shots of whiskey. The liquid helped ground Iris as her heart raced. She drank, the fire burning through her, holding her steady against the fear and desire. Wanting him had become a survival instinct that ignored every alarm. Being near him wasn't a choice, it was a biological need. Feels. They dropped to the floor by the window, the city lights watching them give in. The whole boss and servant thing was over. Iris went down first, her legs giving out from the stress, silently. In that quiet room, the lines between them changed forever. She whispered about her messy past, always running from a broken home. She had lived a life of fake names and exits, trying to stay hidden. But now, under his gaze, Iris had to face the truth. No more running. Feels. Iris shows all the signs of someone who never belonged, the classic result of being abandoned. She is defined by her own empty spaces, with no family and no one to trust, and its long hours is just a sad replacement for a home. She knows it is pathetic that a greasy spoon is her only safe spot. For her, those graveyard shifts are just a fake version of love. Admitting how empty her life is would break her. Feels. Ronan moves with the chill of a hunter, his stone face hiding a mind built for war. He talks about his father's murder, the only man he ever looked up to. It was a brutal hit by the Zakharov crew. 2 cars, 6 shooters, and 3 bullets that changed everything. Ronan remembers the blood in the street with terrifying detail, recalling exactly how his father's hand felt as he died. That moment broke him. For decades, he hated being touched, seeing it as a disease. Feels. For Ronan, getting close to someone means mourning them. His body treats holding a hand like a fatal mistake. This is the mindset of a man where love equals death. Iris sees the crack in his armor. She sees the truth. He is breaking his own rules just to be near her. The roles of predator and prey are gone. Her voice shakes his internal walls. The silence between them is a tight wire. Finally, Ronan gives in. He reaches out, shattering his own isolation. Feels. He's literally touching the scar he caused. Talk about a toxic redemptive arc. Ronan's thumbing that old trauma, and Iris is just paralyzed, completely losing it as he pulls her into his orbit. That forehead press? It's basically a confession from the mob boss himself. Forget the carnal stuff. This is a soul-level connection while the organized chaos of the world outside just stops existing. Feels. When he says her name, the ruthless commander is officially dead. That first kiss? Lethal. Then the dam breaks and Ronan tosses his stoic mask out the window. He's claiming her with a possessiveness that'll give you chills. His hands are basically shackles. Even now, he's like a syndicate leader surveying conquered territory. This isn't just romance. It's a high-stakes power move where every touch is total ownership. Feels. Iris is feeling every bit of his ironclad strength and heat. Her fear has mutated into something wild. She's actually seeking safety with the predator. Ronan's moving with that terrifying combat efficiency, but his target is the bedroom now. The whole universe shrinks down to this one spot. No more overthinking, guys. It's just heavy breathing and pure, electric intensity in the here and now. Feels. He puts her on the bed with a focus that's honestly bordering on pathological. Even with his heart racing, Ronan stays in total control. This isn't a mistake. It's pure devotion from a man who's been starved for a real connection. He's towering over her, building a whole new reality for them. For Iris, his massive presence isn't scary anymore. It's the only thing keeping her grounded against her own terror. Feels. Iris is stuck between feeling totally exposed and strangely calm. Ronan's looming over her, that shamrock tattoo screaming he's the king of the underworld. When he promises she's safe, her whole body feels it. Talk about a textbook trauma bond, right? He's taking it painfully slow, methodically eroding her resistance. He's not just taking off her clothes, he's surgically dismantling every single mental wall she's ever built up. Feels. This is all new for Iris, a feeling that's literally rewriting her DNA. Once his lips hit her neck, all logic goes out the window and pure instinct takes over. Their clothes are hitting the floor like old armor from a war that doesn't matter anymore inside these walls. The calculated moves. Feels. She's tracing the scars of his brutal life, but his eyes show something tragically deep. He's being so patient, demanding she stay focused as they finally merge. It's this wild, suffocating wholeness that's fixing a void she's had forever. When he tells her to look at him, he's demanding to see her entire soul. The world just turns to static. This isn't just physical. It's two broken spirits finally surrendering. She is completely undone. Feels. Ronan's defenses are officially trashed. You can see a gentleness in his eyes that totally contradicts his reputation as a ruthless mob boss. This is his first real intimacy in 4 long years. Talk about a dry spell. For a guy who lived for solitude, this closeness is terrifying. The pace picks up, hitting every nerve. You can see the physiological cost. The heat, the breath, the sweat. It's a raw, massive hunger they can't take back. Feels. Iris pulls him in, and Ronan finally lets out a sound that means he's totally lost it. Saying her name is basically his white flag of defeat. She hits the peak first, years of bottled-up emotion just exploding out of her. Ronan's right behind her, locking into that final, frantic moment of unity. That broken sound he makes? That's the sound of a mob boss's soul finally cracking open from a feeling way too big to contain. Feels. They're just hanging there in the silence afterward. Ronan's being incredibly gentle, running his fingers through her hair, an insane move for a king of shadows. It actually brings tears to her eyes. No words needed. Outside, the Chicago skyline is glowing, totally oblivious to the massive shift that just happened in this room. She's listening to his heart, treating it like a sanctuary, even though she knows there's a lie underneath it all. Feels. His body becomes her shield, a protective cage she didn't even know she needed. She whispers that she chose to stay, picking this gilded prison over being alone in the world. It's that toxic gravity pulling her in. Ronan hesitates for a second, a tiny glitch in his ruthless logic, before pulling her even tighter. She's finally letting go of the defenses she held for 24 years, falling asleep in the warmth of a total lie. Feels. His heartbeat is the only thing keeping her sane right now. 2 broken souls finally found a bit of peace high above the city. For Soar tonight, the lie is enough. This is just the start. The sequel is already moving. You need to hit our exclusive portal to see the rest. Iris thought she'd seen it all, but a single photograph is about to wreck her entire world and prove her whole life was a massive lie. Feels. Her mind is spinning as the questions start to pile up. In Ronan Morgan's world, secrets are the literal rot under the floorboards. Digging into her past is going to destroy whatever's trust. Like I said, this is just the intro to Volume 2. To see the unedited story, you've got to click that link in the pinned comment. The full archive is waiting for you right now. Just follow that primary link to claim the truth. Heals. The next part is way more chilling, trust me. Your likes and comments keep us going. We're diving into the darkest desires and shadow moves. Since this arc gets pretty graphic, standard platforms blocked it. The full, uncensored data is in our private collection.